I'm Spencer James, and this is the interview of a lifetime featuring Sara Mieras. Thanks for being with us here today.
You're welcome.
We did something similar to this years ago with your mom, great-grandma Elizabeth Wagner. And so we thought it would be fun to do this with you coming up on your, what birthday's coming up?
90th.
90th birthday. When's your birthday?
6/3. Oh, that's June.
June 3rd.
June 5th, 1932.
1932. Well, tell us about the year 1932 when your mother's name was?
My mother's name was Elizabeth. My dad's name was Eric. And they lived in an apartment on they lived in an upstairs apartment on State Street here in Kendallville.
Elizabeth and Eric Wagner. And they lived on State Street in Kendallville, Indiana. That's where we are now. We're here at the St. John's Lutheran Church. This is your home church. And I think that's why we picked this location, is because this church is significant to you. This is...
Oh, yes.
Is this where you went to church with your parents also?
That's right. I was baptized, confirmed, and also went to 8 years of schooling here.
Right here in this church.
Right over there. Mm-hmm.
In this cathedral you were baptized?
I don't know the date. It was probably about 2 or 3, probably 3 weeks after I was born.
So back in 1932, what was life like as a child in Kendallville?
Well, of course, they were just coming out, the whole country was just coming out of the Depression. And it was a quiet town. I have a brother, Bill, that born 15 months after I was, so we were always close as children. We did a lot of things together as small children.
Was Bill younger or older than you?
My brother Bill was younger than I am.
Okay.
And I can remember one time when and I was then probably 4, Bill was 3. We lived then on Diamond Street, and I have grandparents. My grandpa and grandma Weil lived on the west end of town, and my grandma and grandpa Wagner lived on the east end of town. And Bill and I decided we were going to walk down to Grandma and Grandpa Weil's.
Was that allowed at that age?
Well, who knows? We started. Mother had put us out on the porch just to sit there nicely, and it was a nice summer day. So we decided to walk. And when we started, I took a hold of Bill's hand and we walked right west on Diamond Street. My mother came out and her children were gone. And she had no idea where we had gone. A neighbor told her, "I saw your children walking down the street west. They said they were going to Grandma and Grandpa Weil's." And my mother said, "Oh my, this means that we had to cross what is Main Street now." Of course, it wasn't as busy as it was, but we had to cross Main Street, and we also had to cross a railroad track.
Oh my.
And so we went. When Mother caught up with us, I was jabbering to Bill. And so she thought she'd just follow us. And we stopped very nicely on Main Street and looked both ways and walked across. And so she just followed us back far enough that she would help. And we made it to Grandma and Grandpa Wagner. Weil's. Who cares? We made it.
Safe and sound. I guess that's the benefits of a small town, is people know where you're at,
Yeah.
who you are.
Oh, yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
your kids walking that way on the street. So
Yeah.
wow. What were the vehicles and how did people get around in
Well,
in
they
that
had
area?
cars, and it was, it was from what Mother told me, it was just a tight thing. You had what you had. We're thankful for what you had, and I don't know. Bill and I did a lot of things together. We were very, very close. Later on, when we got into grade school, people hired children, or hired people, hired mostly children to mow their lawns, and just not with the electric mower or not with a power mower. It was a reel mower. The reels went
Those are
around.
the two wheels and the
Yeah,
spinning metal
right.
blades.
And the blades, And so we made our summer pretty much mowing lawns for people all over that part of town. We didn't go too far off, but we went there. And then later on, Bill had somebody come from the News Sentinel from Fort Wayne, and he wanted to deliver papers. And they had down south from Diamond Street, down south, they had an opening for somebody to deliver the paper, evening paper. And the guy said to my mother, Bill's awful small. And she said, his sister will help him. So I got rooked into that.
So you guys delivered papers together.
So we delivered papers in our, like in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades in that area.
Now, did you walk that paper route, or did
We
you?
walked it.
Okay, no bikes?
No bicycles. We walked it. It was totally different than what it is now because they've got the big high school down there now and everything else. We had to collect every week. We had to go to the houses and collect for their paper for that week and be responsible for that money.
So not only did you deliver the papers, you had to go and collect the invoice or the bill.
Yeah.
Nobody is calling in their credit card number in that era.
No. We went and collected.
No.
So
What was like your favorite toy or pastime in that time?
as a child, I think I played with paper dolls. You had to cut the clothing out, and they had little tags on them, and the doll itself was made of cardboard, but the clothes were paper, and so you cut them out, and they had little tags on the shoulders and stuff, and you'd hang the clothes on the girl and took them down, and I liked that. As I got older, we didn't live far from the lake, so we could walk down, I don't know how far, maybe 4 blocks down to the lake. That's where we took our swimming lessons, off the pier, and that's where we learned to swim.
You learned to swim, and if I remember, great grandma, she liked to fish, and you liked to fish. You learned to fish there too.
Oh boy, yeah, now fish, yeah, fishing, swimming. At
Ice
that time,
skating?
bike riding.
You talked about ice skating a lot over the
So
years.
what?
You talked about ice skating a lot over the years. You ice skated there
Now,
too?
this was on Grandpa and Grandma Wagner owned 7 acres east of their house on Park Avenue, all the way to the lake. And the lake didn't have a dam then or anything else, so it overflowed into one of his pasture fields and would freeze. And Mother wouldn't let me go down to the lake to ice skate because at that time the light company had what we called the water hole where it bubbled up, and at that time they didn't know where the flow was of Bixler Lake, so she was always afraid that the ice would be thinner, and I would have a problem. So I skated there, and it was real nice. It was a good place to skate. Absolutely no falling through. And,
that is good. What was school like? Talk a little bit about elementary and then middle school and high school.
Well, middle school was just probably about, I don't know, middle school was fine. High school was different because of the fact that I think there were 5 kids in my graduating class here, and a couple of them didn't go there to Kendallville High School. They went to a different place. And it was, I don't know whether you could say I was shunned, you know. The girls seemed to, it happened with my granddaughter this year, or not this year, 3 years ago. You go to a different school, and then you go to a big high school, and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade seems to be a clicking time for girls to get together. And so they had already made a lot of their cliques and stuff like that. I didn't have any problem with it. It was just as is. I had a job at that time.
Oh, what was your job?
It was called a soda jerk.
A soda jerk.
I worked at Bloomer's drugstore.
Okay.
And they had a soda fountain and no food, just ice cream and things like that. And you learned to make sodas and malts and, of course, you know, sundaes and stuff like that. And then after I'd worked there a couple of years, then I worked in the drug department too, selling, you know, aspirin, so on and so forth.
Like as a pharmacist?
Well, no, they're different. They were different than it is today. They had, like I said, the aspirin that you could buy, you know, over the counter. Anything you could buy over the counter. I could go across the soda jerk fountain and then go over there. And we always had one guy. Mr. Burroughs had a dress shop across the street. And on Saturday nights, us girls wanted to get out. Everything sort of would close down around 8:30, 9 o'clock. Not Bloomer. Oh, no. He had to stay open till 10 because there might be one man or 2 kids on the street that could come in and get ice cream yet. And it always made us girls a little peeved when somebody came in and asked for malted milk, because we have all those faculties washed, clean, ready to get out of there. And then we'd have to go through all that again, wash all those dishes and everything else. And Mr. Burroughs always came over and sat on Mr. Bloomer and Mr. Burroughs sat on the 2 fountain seats outside the cushion and talk. And he always wanted a tin roof, which is ice cream, and then red peanuts, the red shelled peanuts that, you know, on top of it, with chocolate on it. That's all he ever ordered, but it always so.
Now, did that have soda on it also, or was it just more of like a kind of a sundae?
No, it's just tin roof sundae. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun there. Worked there until I graduated, and when I graduated, the Bell Telephone Company was right upstairs of Bloomer's downstairs. Bell Telephone Company. The supervisor came down, and I had put my application in, and she came down and she told Bloomer that I, you know, wanted to. She had accepted my application to go up and be a telephone operator. And Bloomer said to her, not until after the Rexall 1-cent sale. So I didn't go up right after graduation. I had to wait until they had that stupid 1-cent sale.
He needed his best soda jerk on the job for the 1-cent sale, and then he could let you go be a telephone operator.
So then I went up and was a telephone operator for a couple of years.
I think over the years that you've mentioned being a telephone operator, I think that's one of the things that has stuck out most about you. You know, obviously I enjoy technology and anything like that. So to know that you were a telephone operator at, you know, towards the early eras of the telephone system is very interesting. What was that like as a telephone operator?
Well, of course, you had to say number, please. And then you had two pegs that you put that one in to say number, please. And then the number they gave you, they had to punch it into the wall And if it was one ring, you had to trigger one, and if you have two rings, you had to do two.
So if I'm at home, I would pick up the receiver,
Yeah.
and then what do I say? Like on the Andy Griffith Show, I'd say, Sarah,
No,
or
you just wait till we say number, please.
number, please.
Yeah, you say number, please, then you ring it for them. During storms, we could not have our feet on the railing that we sat on quite high stools. And we could put our feet on the stool or on the railing through. During storms, you couldn't because of the lightning might strike, and so you had to keep your feet off there.
Interesting. Now, I remember hearing something about party lines in the early days of telephones. Party lines were
Oh, good grief,
shared,
yes.
or how did that work?
We had a two-party line, and when you lift up the receiver, somebody's talking, politely put it back down and wait till they get off and you run them different. One was one ring, one was two rings. If you wanted the one, and you just knew, who they were calling. I said, you just plugged it in and then you rang one or two for whoever you wanted. Now, when I got married and moved to the farm, we had a four-party line.
Four different residents on one line.
Yeah, four different residents on one line. And of course, if it was an emergency, you were supposed to say, very politely, ask them if they could limit their conversation. I have emergency or something like that, But that was interesting because
That reminds me of growing up in a household with three brothers. Everybody on the phone trying to call out on one line. Whose turn is it? Get off the phone. Wow. That's interesting that you could potentially pick up and hear other people's calls. Just like now feel like today we have no sense of privacy, who's looking at our data. Same thing back in the early days. Is somebody on the line listening to our calls? So I guess you had to be very cautious of what you would say on the lines.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I never ran into that because it was just, so I never ran into that.
So you said you moved out to the farm. So Kendallville, I would assume you graduated high school, and then soon after that you met your first husband?
A year later, I graduated in 1950. I got married in 1952.
And that was to?
Clyde James.
Clyde James. Where did you meet Clyde?
And so he was a senior. He came in. That's when South Milford Elementary School was bused into Kendallville.
Oh, okay.
And so I met him in there. I met quite a few of the people that did come from South Milford. I still have a very close friend that came in with South Milford. Let's see, it was last Monday, he turned 91.
Oh, wow.
And I've known him since then. He was a friend of my husband's. And
so
we talk on the phone every once in a while and reminisce about this one or that one. And of course, it's this is a terrible thing to say, but we read the death articles in the paper. And
the obituaries?
Then we call, oh, did you see? Yeah, did you know his wife's still alive? No, I didn't know. Or her husband has died a long time ago. So we still stay connected a lot.
Well, hopefully. Is that the only way you stay connected? Certainly you have some fun and not just talk about who's passed away.
No, we talk about other things. He'll tell me some things about going to South Milford grade school, and the people around there. Of course, with me moving into LaGrange County, I knew those. It was back then it was more of a big family group, no matter if they lived next door or you lived 20 miles away. It was just, you just knew the people. Of course, I had a lot of relatives on both sides of my family. I was very fortunate to have the two two sets of grandparents, and just, and you got to know your neighbors because that was the home base, and
So even without technology, people were somehow able to keep community, huh?
oh sure, oh sure. Well, it was a more, I don't know, me, you, rather than holding an instrument and just
Personal
talking to them.
relationships.
They were almost like, yeah, you're right. It's almost like a relationship to them, and you knew all your neighbors. I mean, you knew them by first names, or you knew what they did, and I mean, it's just a total different world right now.
Right, yeah, I bet it is. I bet a lot of things have definitely changed over the years, and you've seen a lot of change from technology to the size of
Yeah.
communities to
Yeah.
the way that industries
And
work. But
of course, with my age, sometimes I think the technology isn't too good. Yeah, I mean, it works, but it doesn't bring people together as more like a family. I mean, families. I hear stories about people sitting down to a meal at home, and each one of the kids is on a phone or something, and they just don't have any conversation. Even then, sitting at the kitchen table. Some of them don't sit at kitchen tables anymore. Some of them just grab and run. The kids are too busy. And
so let's go back to meeting Grandpa Clyde and moving out to
farm?
the farm.
Yeah.
At that time, if memory serves me correct, it would have been Grandma Retha and great Grandpa John, James. Now, that's where Grandpa Clyde lived and grew up, right?
Yes.
And so then you guys then eventually, did you build the house that was across the street?
No,
for
the
them,
house
or-
was there.
That was
the
there.
house had been Clyde's grandparents' house. We did remodel it. We did fix it up. We did remodel it. Went in and didn't change any of the rooms, but we had different. We put wallpaper on it, and it didn't have a bathroom. So we did use one bedroom as a bathroom.
And that was a working farm.
Oh, yeah.
It was mostly dairy, or did they do crops?
Dairy and crops. And of course, when I started, I got little baby chicks, like 100 at a time.
100 chickens at a time.
100 little chickies, and we put them under a brooder, and they grew up, and most of those, the first ones were I used for food and sold some of them. Later on, I can't remember how many layers I had, chicken pens to lay eggs, but I did sell 3 cases. Now that's not cartons, that's not a carton, that's 3 cases. And I can't remember how many eggs went in a case. I sold 3 cartons of eggs a week.
And where would you sell those at?
What?
Where would you sell those? Just along the roadside, or was there a
They
community
came and
market?
got them. They came and got them at the house.
So they knew who in the neighborhood had eggs, and
Yeah,
they would come.
no, I didn't sell them that way. They just came with the truck and picked them up,
Oh, okay.
the cases, and then they'd know that the bottom 2 cases were full, and then I'd get paid for how many eggs were in the 3rd case, or if the 3rd case was full. But yeah, and then later on, I had the layers, and also I sold broilers. And the year that I had David,
You sold what?
broilers, the eaters, the ones that you eat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're called broilers.
Broilers.
But this is the last time, and my mother-in-law was not happy with this. She said, "Oh, Sarah," but I did it anyway. a little bit noted for that, as a little bit of stubbornness in me. But I had the two kids. I had Betty Ann on the 13th of June, of May, 13th of June, and the following year I had David on the 3rd of June, or May. So they were less than a year apart.
Oh, wow.
I also raised 600 broilers.
In that same time?
Baby chicks, 300 at a time. I had 300 at a time and had the two little kids. I had 300 at a time, twice that year, and I was still selling eggs.
So they would probably these days consider those free-range chickens? They were just all over the farm, or did you?
No, they were housed. The layers, my hens were all over the farm.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the other ones, no. You raised those to about 5-6 pounds, and then you crated them up and took them over to booths at Orland, and they cleaned them for you, and you brought them back, and you sold them. I had one lady that asked me if I knew how to cut up a chicken, and I sort of looked at her and thought, don't you? And she said, I don't know how. And I said, well, it'll cost me more if you cut them up than just sell them to me whole. And I said, well, I suppose I should charge you 50 cents more. So she got 3 and wanted me to cut them up. I said, okay, now do you want the wishbone, or do you want me to, or not? And she said, is there a difference? And I said, oh yeah, it'll be how I cut it, whether you want the full wishbone or you cut it too. She said, can I have the wishbone? I said, sure. So that's the way I cut hers up, with the wishbone. She had 4, and I cut about 4. I guess she appreciated it. She said, thank you.
And you did that all out on the farm?
Oh, yeah. We had a huge garden, canned, froze. I got 3 bushel a pear one year. And the kids, I can't remember how many kids I had, I think 4. And of course, all pears don't ripen. I mean, you'd have to do the ones, I did the ones that were ripe when I got them, and then laid the rest of them out on the front porch, which was a very big front porch, and shady, so that they would get the sun. And I couldn't find the yellow, my pears didn't turn yellow, And then all of a sudden I looked at it and I thought, that's what happened to the pears. So I asked the kids, well, yeah, Mom, we've been eating them. They turned yellow, and so we ate them. And I thought, I didn't get mad. All I said, honey, we have to have those for winter. Oh, we can't eat any more now? I said, why don't you wait on the pears, and we'll eat them this winter? And so
I think I remember when I was young being out there, and wasn't there a large pear tree in that lawn of Grandma Retha's side of the road?
Yeah, but it was a different type of pear.
Oh, it was?
It was a different type of pear. I figured the kids were hungry, they eat it. It wasn't anything bad for them to eat, so why? But they always got in, and they got the green beans before I could pick them, the peas. They were always in the garden getting food out and eating it raw. Well, I guess when you have that many kids, you just, okay, kids, go ahead and eat.
Fend for yourself. You had 6 kids. That's a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of activity going on the farm. And then you guys also had, it was a dairy farm too.
We increased the dairy herd up to 72. And that was my job too. I had to take care of the calves, give them their shots and stuff like that. So I was a part-time veterinarian too.
All of that. And kept you busy, I suppose.
I think a lot of raising the kids out there gave them work ethics. They knew that things had to be done when it was time to be done. They all belonged to 4-H, or they all took dairy and other things. And I think in the long run they enjoyed the farm.
Which out of all of your kids, let's tell a few stories about the kids and share some memories about growing up on the farm. Which child would have given you the greatest scare? Like did something on the farm, or
Greatest scare?
the greatest scare, or worried you the most because of something they did?
Well, if I'd have been home, which I wasn't, my husband and I had gone to Fort Wayne to buy Christmas presents. And Betty and David, the two older ones, were in the house, and they were old enough to take care of the two others. They were playing upstairs. The two were sitting downstairs. I have no idea what, but two of them were playing upstairs, and all of a sudden, one of them just screamed, cried, and Betty told me, I knew something was wrong the minute I heard it, that they weren't just fighting or, that something was wrong. And we went up, and they had been playing circus, and one of the boys was riding on the other boy's back. And I don't know I have no idea how he fell off, but he did, and hit the middle of his head on the latch of a bunk beds. Mm-hmm. Split it open.
Oh my gosh.
Down the back. And when my husband and I got home they were just pulling in from the hospital.
Who took him to the hospital?
Oh yeah, they took him straight to the hospital. Who took him? Betty Ann. She could drive at that time.
She could drive.
Yeah, and she took him to the hospital, and she wasn't carrying the child out, but she was carrying 2 bath towels that were bloody. And I thought, what happened? And so then they told me, but he had quite a few stitches put in the back of his head, and that was Michael.
So they had gone off to LaGrange Hospital or Kendallville?
No, they went to the Kendallville Hospital.
So that was quite a drive.
A little closer, about 2 miles closer, but it wouldn't. But we doctored in Kendallville, so they went to Kendallville to the hospital. And
so who of the kids got the best grades?
The best grades in school?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I think they were pretty much equal. Possibly Jeff, as far as I could tell. He very seldom brought Dennis, Michael. Jeff didn't bring much home as far as homework is concerned. The other kids, of course, the boys always said Betty always brought homework home because she wanted to get out of the chores. But
is that the reason?
Yeah,
she had her studying to do, so she couldn't.
She had her studying to do, and so it wasn't. But that's I can't say they all graduated and all have, with God's blessing and everything, have turned out very well.
They have. That reminds me when you said Betty did her studies instead of chores. Was there a division of the kind of chores or responsibilities in the household that women had versus men had? Did you have to go out and milk the cows too, or was that left to Grandpa?
I helped. I didn't. At that time, we had the 72 and milkers, bulk tanks, so there wasn't. At first, I did milk. I mean, we had canisters that you used, totally different, and the big milk cans. My mother-in-law was just disgusted with me, like everything, because I spent so much time in the barn. But I liked the animals. I don't know. It didn't bother me. The kids were in 95% of the kids. I helped do haying. I know how to drive a tractor. I know how to plant corn. I know how to cultivate corn. I know how to mow hay. I know how to rake hay. I know how to bale it. And I also know how to, when the guys brought the wagons up from baling hay, I was the one that put them on the elevator, and then two boys in the hayloft, and they
Stack them in the hayloft.
Yeah.
Boy, that was a hot job, I would imagine.
Well, dusty.
Keeps you physically fit.
And then we fed them. So it was a busy day. At that time, farms were busy. They didn't have. We had all the farm was. I loved the farm. I just loved the farm. I liked being out. It's just one of those things.
Well, now that was, you said you loved the farm. You grew up in what would be considered the city, Kendallville. Was it a change of pace moving to the farm, or was there not that big of a difference in that era between Kendallville and going out to the farm?
The work was different, of course, but I'm not sure that it was. It was just a different work ethic that you had to get. I mean, you didn't have a store just to go walking down to, or you didn't. You always had to drive someplace. I was 10 mile out of Kendallville and 11 mile out of LaGrange, but most of the people in South Milford in that area there went to Kendallville. So, and it was just nice to go to Kendallville because my parents were there yet, and it just, I don't know, we just did most of our business in Kendallville.
So thinking about the time that all the kids were still at home and you lived out there on the farm, what is the fondest memory of living on the farm?
Oh, I don't know. I think just seeing the kids grow up and realizing they had work ethics, not just studies and everything. They had other work ethics. They helped each other a lot of times. I think it was just, I'm not sure, Spencer. It's just the fact that the kids grew up. They're still close, even though they're scattered a little bit, they're still close. I just don't know. The work ethics was definitely different, but other than that, and heck, when you're young, some of the things were challenges, and when you're young, you like that. You like, I don't know, whether it's still that way today, but it was just a good challenge to everything. I just looked at it as a challenge to, get this done or to make this or, to freeze or to can or to just, it was just something that you did. You didn't, it was something that you just did. You didn't even think whether you wanted to or not. You just did it.
It's interesting hearing you reflect on work ethic and bringing that to light, because I think all of my aunt and uncles and James is further down have this strong work ethic, like you say. We my family jokes, it's when we build something, the James way. We can't take a shortcut. We gotta do things to the max. And so I think that probably comes from that initial work ethic of being on the farm, something that you instilled that's passing down generation after generation and is still being passed down.
The kids, the grandkids, they've all got very good work ethics, and they diversified in their schoolings. Fortunate that they're just fortunate. They're fortunate. They're all seem to be good in health. That was one of the things that we didn't have too much. The kids had chicken pox and the kids had chicken pox and mumps and stuff like that. But that's just kids, that's just kids stuff.
Now so there was, let's see, how many years between Betty and Mark? Can we do that math in our head?
Oh yeah, I can do that easy. Mark was born in December, and Betty Ann was 18 in May.
So 18...
17 and a half, 18 years.
So Aunt Betty was
Yeah,
an
he
adult
was
by
sort of
the time.
surprised, but then it's good.
So there was a long progression of children growing up on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
But after they were all gone, and then you got back to Kendallville, Grandma Wagner was still
Yes, she was.
alive then. I think did Grandpa Wagner just passed away?
No, he passed. Yeah, he was gone. Mom was there. My other two, all the rest, everything else. She was the only one left of the family that was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So when you came back to Kendallville after the farm, did it feel like you were coming back home?
Not really. No, things had, after being gone, it wasn't the same. Mom needed help.
She lived to be how old?
She lived to be 93.
93, and in good health up until about the last
she
2
had,
years, which
she had a couple of mini strokes. She was in Lutheran home when she passed away. She was at Lutheran Life Village when she passed away.
And when did she stop driving? I remember she drove.
That's funny too. She said to me, and I don't know why, she said to me, Sarah, I don't think I should be driving anymore. Now, what happened, I don't know. But she just said to me one day, I don't think I should be. So I called Bill and I said, I don't know if something happened when Mom was driving, but she doesn't think she should be driving anymore. And he says, okay. And she says, does she want to sell her car? And I said, yeah. She said she wanted to sell her car. He says, okay. So I think it was one of his son-in-laws needed a car. So he bought the car. He came down, got the car from Mom, bought it from Mom. And 3 months later, she said to me, I should never have sold my car. So I told Bill, and Bill said, it's good we got rid of it. So it was, it was just that. I think she didn't like the fact that I had to help her so much. I'd get her groceries, bring her to church. I think she thought she could still do it. And
That reminds me of a question. Before this interview, we had sent out the questions to the family that we had asked Grandma Wagner so people could vote on the questions that they wanted to have answered, and we'll get to some of those questions, but they also had an opportunity to submit questions they wanted to ask you during the interview. And speaking of cars, this one comes from Brian.
from who?
Brian.
Brian?
My brother Brian and his family. He says, some first memories was hanging out near the garage in Kendallville where you and Grandma Wagner lived. Inside the garage, I remember some cars. One had a bird logo on the hood, I believe a Firebird. One or two of them, he's asking. Do you have any insight to those cars? Were they yours or the neighbors? And he asks, what was your favorite cars that you owned growing up as a child and as you got older?
Well, I can tell you, the one in my mom's was a Trans Am. I had a Trans Am once.
You had a Trans Am. Mm-hmm. That was that black car with the eagle on the front.
And you could make it into a convertible by taking the two sides off.
I vaguely remember you having that car now
Yeah.
that you said that.
Yeah, I had that.
That had to be a fun car.
Well, it was a car. I took the sides off several times, I could easily put them back on they just locked in. And
Now, is that the one that Dad tells me a story of shoving all the kids into the car on a Sunday morning to get to the church on time. And they were praying for dear life all the way there because of your driving. Was that in the Trans Am?
no, I think that was in an old Chevy.
Oh, you had an old Chevy.
Yeah. Well, it was fun trying to get all those kids ready to get in, go to church, but they knew to behave. It was simple. After we got there, it was fine. Everybody said, I just filled a pew.
They were, as the story goes, they were just glad to still be alive and in the church pew after
I
that
guess.
ride in.
Yeah.
What was there a type of car that you had always wanted but you never had, or did you
I
get
don't
that
know.
with the Trans Am? Because that was a
I think the
sporty
Trans
car.
Am was
That
just,
was your
I
sporty
wanted
car
a
that you
sports
got.
car, but that's sort of silly, isn't it? Silly.
No, it's fun. Brian also asked, who was the worst driver or the scariest driver of all your children?
David,
David.
that was easy.
Why was he the scariest?
I don't know. He just he had a wreck, driving from school. He had his sister in the car with him. Can't think of anybody else of the kids that's ever had a wreck. No, I can't. I think David's the only one that had a wreck. He slid off the road. It was icy.
Oh, no.
And he slid off the road. But nobody's been in a real serious accident,
That's good.
For as much as they have driven and gone, nobody's really been in a serious accident. That's God's blessing too.
Yes, it is. So so we'll get back. You came back to Kendallville, and you helped Grandma in her later years, great grandma, and then you also met your second husband, Jim Mieras. Mm-hmm. Where did you guys meet?
His wife bowled with me.
Oh,
She passed away, I can't remember when, but she had cancer off and on. And he would come to the bowling alley with her. And of course, he knew people that I knew too. So
you guys knew each other many years before you even started dating?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we knew each other. And then while I was still working at Rogers, this is a funny thing. He came. This was quite a while after she had passed away. He came in, and I was at the donut case, and he just said to me, and one of the other girls was standing there, and he said to me, would you want to go out for supper some night with me? And I said, well, I guess, And one of the girls said, well, it's about time you asked her out. You've been wanting to for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we laughed, And so we went out, and at that time he worked over at the golf course at Garrett.
Uh-huh.
And they also served meals, and that's where he took me, was over there.
To the golf course, the clubhouse there?
Yeah, to eat. And then after I married him, he said, I didn't retire. She retired from Harvester in Fort Wayne. He said, I didn't retire just to sit at home. I was still working. And he said, why didn't you see? I said, I'm not old enough to retire. And he said, why don't you go see what what your Social Security would be and what your pension will be, because I belong to the Meat Cutters Union.
Mm-hmm.
And and with the union, I would have had to work 4 or 5 more years to even bring it up $10. So he said that wasn't worth it. So I retired, and then we traveled.
That's nice. You fished a lot. He golfed. You guys
Fish,
traveled.
golf, church, and travel. That was our. We fished 2 days a week, played golf 2 days a week, pretty much, and then church on Sunday, and it was just
And he was a veteran. He served in what army?
World War II.
World War II.
He was a machinist in a submarine.
Okay. And then you guys often played cards at the VFW. Is that correct?
VFW, we played cards. Yeah, it was relaxing, fun, no pressure. It just was totally different than the pressure of a farm.
That's what retirement is supposed to be.
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory in the era of Jim?
I think probably the last big. Of course, his kids. He had 2 kids and 2 grandkids in Texas, so that's where we spent our honeymoon, was going down, because his kids had never met me. And so we went down to see them and came back. That was our trip. But I think our trip out west would be probably the most. We went up, we left, took my mother was still alive, took my mother up to stay with Bill at Valpo, and then went on up to Highway 2, which goes across Dakotas and Montana and everything. It's the last main highway in the United States. And we took that. And of course, Jim always, after breakfast was over with at a restaurant someplace, or there was always a table of men. So he was over there. So he always went over and talked to the men. And they told him, asked him if we'd seen the Peace Gardens. And Jim said no. And so when he came back to the table, he said, we're not going any further west, we're going to go north. And the Peace Gardens is a place that is half of it is in the United States and half of it is in Canada.
Okay.
and it's decorated that way. Right down the line, the American flag's on this side and the Canadian flag's on that side. Beautiful, beautiful place. And it's up a hill, and you can see it from down, and you have to walk up the hill and see it. The flowers were blue, beautiful, everything. Of course, they had umpteen gift shops.
It sounds like it's beautiful, and you like flowers. You do a lot of planting and gardening now.
I do with flowers, but that's now is also getting to be a little rough on me.
Did you get that from living on the farm, or did you get that from growing up with your mom in Kendallville?
I think it was just the fact that I like flowers. I like to do something in the spring so that it looks nice all summer. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 flower beds, and then I've got some hostas, and just different things.
So in these later years, you've kept busy with gardening. I know you sang in the choir here at the church. We're actually in the choir loft because, again, this place is significant to you. As you said, it's where you were baptized and where you've always come to church and even went to school here. I hear the kids getting out for school now, it sounds like. Let's talk a little bit about your faith. Did that come from just always being coming to church as a youngster, or who was influential on your faith?
I've always come here. When I married and went to LaGrange County, I moved my membership over to Messiah. They had just built a small church over there, so it was a little closer. So I changed my membership and went over there, taught Sunday school there, helped with the Vacation Bible School there. The kids grew up there. The kids were baptized and confirmed over there. Then when I came back to Kendallville, I transferred back here. Joined the choir.
What part did you sing in the choir? Soprano, alto?
Alto.
Alto? Where did you learn to read music? Was that growing up or just through choir?
No, we had a choir. We had a children's choir in grade school. And I took pretty much all the kids sang in a children's choir, and I always like to sing. I don't have the power in my voice anymore. It's just I don't know. It's just something. I still sing the hymns every Sunday and everything else. But
do you play instruments? I remember you showing me a little bit on the piano. You played the piano a little bit. Did you play any other instruments?
I took piano lessons for quite a while. Loved to play the piano. In fact, the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teacher here at St. John, Mr. Ehlers, played the organ. And he wanted to teach me the organ, but I didn't do it.
You didn't want to take on a new instrument?
I don't know what I didn't think. I think I didn't think I was good enough for it. I had a keyboard, played on that until Caitlin, my youngest, she's my youngest granddaughter, not great granddaughter, but she's my youngest daughter. Wanted to take lessons, and so I gave it to her. And now her folks have bought her a larger one because that was just a small one. But she's still taking piano lessons too.
Were you going to get it back and dust off those keyboarding
skills? Well, I was
skills?
thinking about it. I didn't know that they had gotten a bigger one for her.
Well, now you
but
can
I
get it
knew
back.
that they were going to either have to do that or get a piano because she's taken lessons for long enough now that she has more than 4 octaves to play.
That's funny. The piano that was out at the farm, is the piano that I started to learn to play on, and it's probably the piano that you often played on out at the farm too.
Yeah, that was the James's, and I understand your father still has it.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Tucker and Brady and
yeah.
they all and Harrison they
Yeah.
play on it when they're over there, and when I go home I try to play it for them, and I think Dad likes to try to play the piano too.
Yeah, yeah. He likes to. He's the only one that I know of. Well, of course, the boys played in the Prairie Heights band. I had 2 boys play in the Prairie Heights band.
Do you remember the instruments everybody played?
Oh, gosh. No, I can't remember.
There was a couple saxophones in there, I think. I think
Oh.
Uncle Jeff and Dad played saxophone.
Yeah.
So this is a good time to ask the question. There's so many people wanting to know what your favorite song is.
Oh, good grief.
Right? That's a hard one.
Yeah, it's a hard one because I have so many favorite hymns, and then I always liked Judy Garland singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," and also I have watched Sound of Music, I think. Umpteen times. There's so many nice songs.
The hills are alive
Yeah.
with the sound of music.
I can't say that I have a favorite. I don't know. I have so many favorite hymns, just so many of them, and it's just, and I just can't. I can't pick out one special one. It's just,
What is your favorite genre of music? Is it country? Is it Christian music? Is it
yeah. Yeah, it's all that Christian music. Now we have, and there's other songs besides what we have in our hymnal that are, a lot of the real old ones that, it just, I don't know, I like hymns. They're soothing, they're very, telling. I don't know what to say, but I just like hymns. It just,
music is spiritual?
so.
Well, there's so many questions that I was supposed to ask. We've had just a nice time just talking naturally about
Yeah.
life from childhood to the farm and back to Kendallville. So maybe we'll just kind of rapid fire some questions here with no rhyme or reason to them, and see that way those that ask some questions.
Okay, I'll go fast and short answers.
Yeah, well, fast and short answers. Okay, so your friend Bonnie down in Florida, in Fort Myers, she asked, what was the favorite thing you did with your mother?
With my mother, Mom wanted to go to Florida, so we made a trip with the railroad track, with the railroad. You call them, tell them where you want to go, they'll make the plans for you. So we went, and we went to Grand Canyon. Mom wanted to see the Grand Canyon. We went to the Grand Canyon. It was down we went up to Seattle, Washington, and then down the coastline. And we had, I don't know how much sleep my mother had. She was always looking. She had the bunk, and I had the top bunk, because I had a light up there, so she wanted to go early. And they came in and made up our they came in and made up our beds for us. We didn't have to do that. And anyway, yeah, I think that we went to Grand Canyon and Seattle. We went to the Seattle waterfront. No. San Francisco waterfront. We went down there. We ate down there. once. Spent 2 days in San Francisco. And this was all arranged by the railroad.
Seems like you've always enjoyed your time traveling.
Yeah, it was, didn't have to worry. We ate we had our time to eat on a train. It was it was just a really nice trip with Mom.
Travis and his family have a few questions here. I don't know if we can get to them all. Your earliest memory.
Earliest memory?
Your earliest memory, like maybe the first thing that you remember.
Oh, mercy. I don't know. I don't know that was way far back. I don't know.
What was your favorite candy bar?
My favorite candy bar? Oh, good grief. A baby.
Baby Ruth?
Huh?
The Baby Ruth?
Yeah, it had peanuts in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real chunky peanut
the
one
Baby
with
Ruth. Yeah, I
chewy
think-
caramel and the
yeah,
chocolate over it.
yeah.
We may have to stop by the gas station on the way home and get one. Favorite pie?
Favorite pie? Oh, I don't know if I got one. I liked Mom's rhubarb pie.
Just plain rhubarb or strawberry rhubarb?
Just plain
Plain
rhubarb.
rhubarb. They ask what your favorite game to play is. I probably could answer this myself, but I want to hear it from you.
My favorite game to play, I liked checkers when I was little, but I think now, I don't know. I got a lot of them, and I play on my iPad, and but I think right now, I suppose it's euchre. I play it a lot.
I was going to say it's probably
That
euchre.
and- yeah.
What's your least favorite food?
What?
Your least favorite food?
My least favorite food?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I have one.
You even like
I like-
liver and
I-
organ meat?
Huh?
You like liver and organ meat?
I like liver, yeah.
All of that, huh?
Well, I don't love it, but I'll,
Do you like sushi?
I'll eat it.
Sushi?
Yeah. Well, I think there was a little grandson that took us to a sushi store once. I'm not sure that I'm thrilled to death with that, but I ate it, and the taste is different, but it's I'm not really a food connoisseur. I cook for myself for what I want, and I cook the way I should eat it. I have never used salt, and the minute I can eat salt in a restaurant, the minute I take a bite of something in a restaurant, I know that they peppered it with salt. But
So you don't eat too much salt,
I don't.
yet you have
I
high blood
tried-
pressure.
I try to not eat any salt. I buy food with that have low salt in them. It just sort of irks me. I don't know. People don't need salt.
I understand. I'm the same way when I go to a restaurant. I sometimes I think they cheat by putting salt in as a flavoring versus could you not use some herbs or something else?
Yeah. And salt isn't good for you.
No, it's not.
So-
Travis also wants to know if you ever had too much to drink. Has Grandma been drunk?
Just once.
Just what was that? What
And
happened
that
there?
was all. That was on a New Year's Eve, and that's all. No way. I never drank. I don't know that I've ever. Well, I don't know that I've ever drank anything else. Weren't you out? Oh, maybe you weren't out at your folks. Your dad made wine,
Yeah.
and they were sitting at a table playing euchre, and I said, that's good wine, Mom, cry it. So I did about that much, about an inch, maybe an inch and a half. That's it, no more. Your
Dad's
mom's-
wine is potent.
Huh?
Dad's wine is potent.
Yeah.
It definitely has a high alcohol content. Oh, speaking of Dad, Dennis, he wants to know what were some things her brother and she did that could have gotten them into trouble if their parents found out? We already knew you escaped down the street to your grandparents' house, but what's something else that the two of you did, you and Bill, that would have gotten in trouble if?
I don't know. Bill was one of these kids that never got in trouble, and I don't think. I really don't think there was anything we did that would get us in trouble because we knew the punishment if we did, so we just stayed away from that. The punishments were hard. The punishments were having things taken away from us that we enjoyed doing very much. You know what I mean? There wasn't any. Whippings or anything like that. It was just, okay, you did that. Now you just can't. You just can't do this. You can't do this and not just for one night.
For a long time.
For a week.
Oh, Tucker wants to know. Oh, Tucker's asking the big questions here. Tucker wants to know, what was the most valuable thing that you've ever learned in life?
I really think it was to accept people no matter who they were, or just to not like them, but accept them. No matter no matter what nationality they are or anything else. They are a person. And of course, Mom always said that God made them just like you, just like God made you. But they, some don't accept that, some do. And
so treat all people with respect
yeah,
and dignity.
I get along with. I can talk to anybody that comes along. I have no trouble doing that. I delivered meals for a couple of years, and that was really, I enjoyed that. I didn't just go in and flop the meal down and say bye. I talked to them for a while. Not long, because I had to get the meals out, but I'd talk to them. I feel that I've made quite a few friends that way. Some of them aren't here anymore. But I enjoyed that so much. I really enjoyed that.
I'm sure they enjoyed it too, the company. Especially, when you're in a place in life where you can't even prepare meals for yourself, you're probably not getting out and having much of a social life. So having you come in and serve meals.
Yeah, I had one lady. She's no longer living, but I had one lady that every time I went into her house with the meal, the cat was on her lap, and she had a Western movie on.
A Western movie with the cat on her lap.
And I said, the first time, I said, where do you want your meal? Oh, she says, right here on my lap. He won't bother it. So I put it on her lap, and I didn't, and then a couple of times later I said, you watch a lot of Westerns, don't you? She says, I've got a Western channel, and that's what I'm keeping. But the cat was always on her lap. So.
That's sweet. This one is from, Tucker asked, who's your favorite child? Tucker, we're not going to answer that question. Brady asked, what was the first car you ever owned? Brady's into cars.
Apparently.
Yeah. What was the first car you ever owned?
Oh, gosh. That I owned?
Because when did you get your driver's license? What age?
I have no idea.
Well, Brady's just going to have to be settled
Brady.
with Trans Am was the best car you ever owned.
I own that. I bought that one.
Little Harrison asked, what's your favorite toy when you were little? You talked about paper dolls, but did you have any other favorite toys?
I can't remember of toys laying around on the floor, or anything. I can't remember that.
Sounds like it's more about activities and
Yeah,
crafts.
of course we didn't have. Yeah, we didn't have, of course, we didn't have television and things like that. So of anything, I think we played ball. You know, we had a bat and a ball. And
So they also voted on the questions that we asked Grandma Wagner, and one of the highest voted questions was, what is something special from your childhood that you'll always remember?
from my childhood that I'll always remember. Grandma and Grandpa Wagner lived on Park Avenue, and the train, and he always had a huge garden, and the trains would go through, and the 20th Century Limited would go through at the time we're eating, and we'd always, that's the fastest train that went through Kendallville at that time, and I was probably 8. But that's, I don't know, that's,
So that wasn't just a freight train. That was a
no, that
a
was
fast
that was
passenger
fast passenger
train, and so that was probably pretty
Probably
new
in
and
the-
state of the art and
yeah.
novel at that time.
Yeah,
And so that was something interesting
yeah.
from childhood. Okay.
yeah. I think there are other things. My grandmother, while came from a farm, so we went out to the farm. That was always fun. I had a turkey chase me once.
Oh,
Gobbler. Oh, he got mean. He chased me.
I remember being out at your farm, and one of Grandpa Clyde's geese chased me,
Goose.
and I remember
Yeah.
remember that too. So I can
But,
relate
you know,
to
they
that.
didn't get me. I just screamed and ran. So,
Oh my.
but yeah,
They also want to know, who was your first kiss?
a boy in my class in high school. And it happened in Grandma Wagner's backyard.
Oh,
That was the first kiss.
what was your first date?
My first date,
What did you do on your first date?
oh, that was junior senior prom,
Junior, senior prom? Who did you go with?
Clyde.
Clyde? So you went to did you guys go out to dinner beforehand, or you just went to the prom?
No, at that time that we had dinner in the high school gymnasium, the small gym. We had 2 gyms, small gym, and entertainment by the older kids, like the junior, senior, would put on entertainment for us. And then generally we were on our own by 9 o'clock, and generally just rode around. I think just sort of rode around in a car, and we always doubled up.
That was your first date, was junior or senior prom. Oh, well, we could go on for
Oh, I suppose
hours
we can.
talking.
Long time.
Maybe we'll have to do a
Long time
a
to-
part 2 when you come up on your 100th birthday. What were some of the things you most wanted for your children when you were raising them? What did you most dream about or most want for your children?
I think there were 2 things I wanted. Of course, as small children, I wanted them to behave themselves. But as they got older, I wanted them to respect people and also stay true to God. Stay true to their religion.
What would you say to your grandchildren? What advice would you... We live in an interesting time. And you remembering a simpler time and seeing so many things and seeing where the world's at now, what would you say to your grandchildren, your word of advice?
I think I think that respecting others no matter what, I mean, You don't have to love them and you don't have to like them, but respect them. I mean, if they have other ideas than what you don't want, don't, it's their ideas. And if there's something that you think that they shouldn't have, possibly very quietly respect them and possibly say something about it, you know. But other than that, I think respect to other people is probably a good thing, all the way down. I mean, all the way up, all the way from the little up. Just respect them. They're human beings. A lot of them, even if they don't feel the way you do about things. There are two things I try not to talk, or there's one thing particularly I try not to talk to anybody, and that's politics.
That'll be divisive if you do. I try to steer clear of politics also. It seems like it's so divisive.
I mean, you know, everybody has their own way, everybody has their own ideas, and I always figure, okay, if that's the way you want to live, or if that's the way you feel, I'm sorry for you, or, you know, it's okay with me. But because I know I can't, I know I could possibly not change them no matter what I say.
We talk about not wanting to talk politics, but you kind of bring up a very interesting question, if I can ask. You know, when we are so divided, even now in this era, even now in this era, when the country and everybody is so divided and polarized on every topic, what if you were standing at that presidential pedestal giving, you know, a speech to the nation to unite them? What would be your word of advice to the nation to unite them together?
Well, there again, it's respect, because I don't think people have too much respect for certain people. And there's a real strong thing that people are turning more and more away from God, their Savior. And they have to realize that He's almighty and He's powerful and He will judge.
When I was thinking this morning questions I was going to ask you, that parallels a question that I was thinking about asking you, and I have to ask you this now. You know, because faith has been so important to you, and like you say, faith is becoming less and less important to the younger generations and even the older generations, and church is becoming an afterthought. It's not priority. It's something you do every once in a while. And there's a variety of reasons that's happening, you know, from you know the way that a church, you know, communicates to the way that what's happening in the world. What do you think a faith community like a church can do to rekindle that spirit in people?
I think it's going to have to be through a generation. It's not going to happen overnight. I think the only way that it's going to happen is to open your mind to it. Everybody has just I feel everybody has just sort of closed their mind, saying, well, it's not going to happen. It hasn't for 1,000 years. It's not going to do, and it's a lot of hogwash. It's just, you know, it's just something people believe for some reason or other. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just, I know how I feel. I hope I can't. I don't judge people. There's a lot of things that I pray to God about, Sometimes my prayers get a little long, but I think he's still listening. I mean, it's just, so, and it has to start with people. I think it has to start when a kid, now we give children Bibles here. There's a lot of nice kids' Bibles out. Give them that instead of a lot of other stuff that they could read. Mm-hmm. Just start, you have to start with them. Open the parents' eyes to what is going on in the world, if that's what they want for their kids, or if they want to change it. I think the families are finally opening up their eyes to the fact that what's being taught in public schools and what they want to teach in public schools is not the place for it. Just things. I probably could go on forever about different things that, you know, have changed over my lifetime. They have changed so radically, just really radical, and.
So it sounds like it's at least trying to make spirituality part of the life, and then see how it blossoms, you know, through making it part of your daily or weekly.
You know, I could probably go on. I'll get off my soapbox.
So we had one last question, and that was from Travis. He asked, "What will be your first words at the pearly gates? The pearly gates of heaven. What will be your first words?"
Boy, I suppose, thank you, Lord. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Well, I think that probably would be just thank you, Lord.
And I'm sure he'll respond with thank you, good and faithful servant. Welcome. Well, is there any parting words that you want to leave on video as we close this interview?
No, just the fact that I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of what they have accomplished, and I'm proud of where they're living their lives and raising their kids.
We do have a good family.
I do.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you pushing 100, and we'll do this all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm able.
You'll be there. Love you, Grandma.
Thank you.